location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. In accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are providing public access to the meeting by telephone, with additional access possible by video and other electronic means. We are utilizing Zoom for this electronic meeting. All members of the commission and selected legislative staff have the ability to communicate contemporaneously in this meeting through this platform. And the public has access to contemporaneously watch and or listen to the meeting on Zoom and via phone by following the directions and links provided on the general court website. We will also be having a time on the agenda for public comment. We have provided public notice of necessary information for accessing the meeting in the Senate calendar. We are providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anyone has a problem, please email remotesenate@ledge.state.nh.us. That's remotesenate@ledge.senate.nh.us. or call 603-271-3043. That's 603-271-3043. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting, it will be adjourned and rescheduled. Please note that all votes taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. So I would like to welcome you all, and we do need to begin with a roll call, but I would ask that as Alan goes through the roll call, please take just a couple of moments to introduce yourselves as well. So Alan, if you would call the roll.
No problem. Senator David Waters.
I am here in the State House alone at this time, and serve on Energy and Natural Resources and sponsored this piece of legislation. Thank you.
Senator Jeb Bradley.
Yeah, I'm in Wolfboro in my home, representing Senate District 3, and I'm glad that David's bill got included in the omnibus packages. It wasn't always easy.
Mm-hmm. Representative Jane Bulio.
Jane Bulio from Manchester. I serve on the Environment and Agriculture Committee, and I've also served on municipal and county government and resources and economic development. Thanks.
Thank you. Representative Catherine Harvey. I think you're muted there. Hold on one second.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute myself. I'm Catherine Harvey. I chair the Fish and Game and Marine Resource Committee. I'm here in my house in the sewing room. I see we're being live streamed. I don't know if I have to tell you that I don't mind if we're recorded.
Thank you. Representative Peter Sampsits.
It is muted. Unmute.
There you go.
Hi, this is Peter Sampsits from Portsmouth. I serve on the Science, Technology, Energy Committee of the House. And despite my image behind me, I'm not outside. I'm in my home and I'm alone.
Thank you. Representative Brenny Cushing.
I'm Rennie Cushing. I'm from Hampton. I'm at my home and I'm alone in the room. I have other people in my house with me that may pass. I don't think they're going to come through this room when I'm meeting. Once upon a time, I sponsored and chaired a offshore wind study committee that led to a suggestion that we undergo a BOEM process that I'm glad that the governor picked up on last year. And I'm really glad that the Senate was able to include this in their omnibus legislation.
Thank you. Matthew May of OSI.
Matthew Malo is here. I'm the Energy Advisor at the Office of Strategic Initiatives, which is a lead agency on the federal BOEM process, and look forward to the committee's work.
Thank you. Then we have Commissioner Caswell, but it looks like we have Mark LaLiberté as the alternate.
Yes, my name is Mark LaLiberté. I work over at BEA with Commissioner Caswell. I'm a business resource specialist. A lot of my work, most of my work happens on the seacoast. I also work on a lot of these special projects, including offshore wind, and I've been involved in this for about a year and a half now and learned a lot from a lot of the people on here. There's a lot of familiar names. So I look forward to being a part of this.
Thank you. And then we have Ted Dyers and Stephen Kocher as the alternate.
Yeah, hey everybody. This is Ted Deers. It's good to see all of you. I know many of you. Look forward to knowing the rest. I am the administrator of the Watershed Management Bureau at the Department of Environmental Services, which means my job is basically to keep track of our surface water quality across the state. Previously, I've worked in the Coastal Zone Management Group. I was a coastal director with Steve's position now. And for 24 years, I've been engaged in coastal and ocean issues at our local, state, regional, and national level. I've sat on a White House advisory group to the Obama administration relative to offshore interests, and I've chaired a number of different organizations, regional organizations that are looking at ocean and ocean-related planning issues. So I'm thrilled to be able to be here and to be able to chat about some of these really important things, and I think it's going to be a great group.
Thank you. And Stephen Kocher.
Yeah, this is Chris Williams from the New Hampshire DES Coastal Program. I'm the program coordinator, and I'm sitting in on behalf of Steve today.
You got it. Let me just change that. All right. Next, we have Diane Martin from the PUC. Oh, there you go. Sorry.
I don't know if you can hear me. My name's Diane Martin. I serve as the chairwoman of the Public Utilities Commission for New Hampshire, and I am very excited to be part of this. I have a great interest in offshore wind.
Thank you. Next, we have Sherry Patterson.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. This is Sherry Patterson. I'm the Chief of Marine Fisheries Division for the New Hampshire Fish and Game Department. I have been working in coastal waters, both intra and interjurisdictional capacity for over 40 years, and I'm really looking forward to this next venture that the state is diving into with offshore wind capabilities. Thank you.
Thank you. Donald Crease.
Hi, everybody. I am Don Crease. I am the head of the Office of the Consumer Advocate. We represent the interests of residential utility customers. And so in general, our interest is in pursuing a responsible, innovative energy policy that isn't too expensive for customers.
Thank you. Michael Behrman.
Good afternoon, everyone. Michael Behrman. I'm here on behalf of Clean Energy New Hampshire. I'm their Director of Business Development and very excited to get this process started. So thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Diane Foster. I don't know if I see her.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, you're there. There you are. Great.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Diane Foster. I'm the Director of the School of Marine Sciences and Ocean Engineering at the University of New Hampshire. I'm also a faculty member in Ocean Engineering and Mechanical Engineering. I've been at UNH for 12 years. In another hat I wear, I'm co-chair of the U.S. Coastal Research Program's academic team.
Thank you. Next, we have Sean Clancy.
Yes, hi, good afternoon. I'm here on behalf of the Community College System of New Hampshire and Interim Chancellor Dr. Susan Heward. I work at Great Bay Community College. I've been here since 2016. My responsibilities include workforce development and technical education programs. And prior to moving into higher ed, I spent 15 years in the international shipping business, as well as another 4 years in supply chain management.
Thank you. Next, we have Jim Titone.
Jim Titone. My name is Jim Titone. I'm president of the Yankee Fishermen's Cooperative here in Seabrook. We represent 70 members. It's a member-owned fishing cooperative. and I've been involved in the commercial fishing industry since 1965. Now, I also noticed there's supposed to be a second member from the commercial fishing industry involved, and if possible, I'd like to have Eric Anderson, who's president of the New Hampshire Commercial Fishermen's Association, also become a part of this commission.
Thank you. That one is appointed by the governor, and that's great.
If I may just comment there, thank you. I've spoken with Eric today, and I think that his interest is known, and we'll just to be the governor's decision. But thank you so much for serving.
Thank you.
Next, we have Tony Ginta.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tony Junta, and I'm representing the New Hampshire BIA. At the BIA, I also vice chair the Manufacturing and End Users Policy Committee, and I am currently home and in the room alone for this meeting.
Thank you.
Most welcome.
Next, we have Afl-Cio President Glenn Brackett.
There you go. Yeah, hi, my name is Glenn Brackett. I'm with the Afl-Cio here in New Hampshire. We represent dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of workers who are doing this work already around the country. And I think that our workers bring a unique perspective and good work ethic to this project. So looking forward to being on this commission.
I know I have gotten word from the IBW that Joe Casey will be the appointee, but he is not here at the moment. Just to let you guys know. Next, we have Vanden Devasha. Sorry if I'm saying incorrectly.
Good afternoon. Vanden Devatiev. I'm the Director of Policy and Interconnections at Eversource. I have been involved in all of the state RFPs, helping offshore wind development for Massachusetts and Connecticut, helping the evaluation of such projects. So really looking forward and honored to be part of this team.
Thank you. Next, we have Tim Roche.
I'm Tim Roach. I'm the director of the Rockingham Planning Commission. We have all of the coastal members of our communities are part of our commission and have interest in this project. And we're here to make sure that it fits in with the regional plans that we have. So glad to be here.
Thank you. Next, we have Jennifer Sizis. How will I say that? Don't want to offend.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Jen Sizz, Executive Director of the Stratfor Regional Planning Commission. We are Tim's neighbors just to the north and include the Great Bay communities and several other more northern coastal watershed communities. So very interested to, hear where we go and how it meets the best interest of our communities as well.
Thank you very much. And that wraps it up there, Senator.
Well, thank you so much, Alan, and thanks everybody. I think we can all see what a terrific commission we have, extraordinary expertise from so many areas. And, this is an exciting moment to begin this commission. It has huge potential for economic development in the state and of course for renewable energy as well. And I wanted to thank particularly my legislative colleagues who helped get this bill put together and passed. And then particularly I want to thank Governor Sununu for forming the Gulf, requesting the Gulf of Maine task force be set up and for the good work that he has put forward in establishing his 4 area groups, which you'll see a lot of similarity to the tasks that we have undertaken. And then just so many members of his administration, Matt Melo, and then so many members of the state agencies who have helped so much in getting this bill to where it needed to be and now and participating in moving forward. You have the agenda before you, and just to review it, we're going to have some elections. Then I thought it would be helpful to just take a look at the legislation together briefly, and then briefly look at the presentations, which you have the links for from the first Gulf of Maine Task Force meeting on December 19th. We'll have a little discussion about how we're going to proceed and set our next meetings and have a little public comment. So I don't think we're going to be here long time, but I thought that it'd be helpful to get us all on the same page about a few things. So first, we need to elect a chair, and so I will open the floor to nominations.
Dave? Yeah, Jeb Bradley here. I'd like to nominate my seatmate, Senator David Waters.
Well, thank you. Is there a second?
I'd like to
I
second.
will second.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations?
Move to close nominations.
Well, thank you. I think what maybe we'll do is nominate all 3 positions and then have one vote, Alan. I think that would be the way to go. For nominations for vice chair, I would, if you'll indulge me, would nominate Michael Behrman.
I'll second.
Are there other nominations for vice chair? And then finally, nomination for clerk. And again, if you'll indulge me, I would like to nominate Mark Liberté. If there is a second.
I'll second that, Dave.
Well, thank you so much. Are there any other nominations for clerk? Doesn't this feel a little bit like a junior high election?
But David, the stakes are much.
Well, I'm glad that we have a ticket that we could come to the meeting with, and I appreciate that. So we'll close the nominations, and Alan, would you please call the roll?
Yeah, so I'm just going to call the roll and yes to all, no to all, what you guys would say. All right, so Senator David Waters.
Yes.
Senator Jeb Bradley.
Yes.
Representative Jane Bolio.
Yes.
Representative Catherine Harvey.
I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay.
For getting the unmute.
No problem. Representative Peter Sampsits.
Yes.
Thank you. Representative Rennie Cushing.
Yes, and vote in favor of the slate.
Matthew Mayu.
Yes.
Mark Liberté, sorry.
Yes.
Ted Deers.
Yes.
Diane Martin.
Yes.
Sherry Patterson.
Yes, thank you.
Donald Crease.
Yes.
Michael Behrman.
Yes.
Diane Foster.
Yes.
Sean Clancy.
Yes.
Jim Duton.
Yes.
Tony Junta.
Yes.
Glenn Brackett.
Yes.
Vanden Devasha.
Yes.
Tim Roche.
Yes.
And Jennifer says.
Yes.
There you go. You 3 are in.
Well, thank you, Alan. And, again, thanks to Michael and to Mark. And I know that not elected to an official role, that Matt Melo will be very important working with the 3 of us to help develop agendas and schedules and so forth. And just let me say that it's my intention for this commission really to be collaborative. We're all in this together. There's great opportunities for all of us. We also, I hope, will be absolutely transparent and to open to all voices so that we can benefit from the ways in which other states have organized such efforts and also not repeat their mistakes. And I think that's an important role for us, is to make sure. We are going to be working closely with the governor's working group, and we certainly be working with agencies and all the peoples that we represent, and then we'll certainly be aligning ourselves with the GOM task force when it recommences its meetings. I thought it'd be helpful to look briefly at the legislation, and so Alan, if you could put this document up. And if you wonder, starts on page 43 of the HB 1245 omnibus, but I thought it'd be helpful for everybody to have a copy in front of them. We sent it around, but can you post it, Alan? I saw it for a second there.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just want to point to a few things. On the first page there, starting at line 14, we have our task, and first and foremost, economic development opportunities for New Hampshire and supply chain needs. Secondly, port capabilities. Third, workforce development. Fourth, energy procurement. Fifth, transmission and storage. And sixth, fisheries and marine environment. We also are going to offer some thoughts about how this, in relationship to the state energy strategy, what kinds of contracts for developers and utilities can deliver lower rates to rate payers. If you have the handout, if you turn to the second page, but otherwise, Alan, if you could go down to the next page on line 17. And so here's the list of, basically it's our marching orders of in whatever order or how we plan to do this. These are the areas that it seemed in developing the legislation are likely for us to offer advice to the GOM and also recommendations to agencies and to the legislature for potential legislation and budgetary action. And I think you'll see by looking at this list here why the membership is what it is, that it seemed we needed people on the commission who could represent each of these areas we might look into. I will note that it is likely that we will be working, although not, they're not commission members, but with the career and technical education centers and also the community college system. And I just will note as an aside that I have encouraged, and there will be formed a kind of a consortium of Great Bay Community College and 4 of the CTEs to look into workforce development from those entities. And then we could look on the next page, line 6. We have some reporting to do. We're going to make recommendations for legislation, directing to the New Hampshire congressional delegation for items requiring federal oversight, Public Utilities Commission, economic and educational development related to offshore wind and so forth. I'll note also that the Office of Offshore Wind Industry Development is established through this legislation in Business and Economic Affairs, and it has, as you'll see, several tasks that it might be taking on. It was felt from the governor and others at this time that we should not identify funding. I suspect that there may be some requests coming in the budget, but also opportunities for some private or grant funding as well to help that office operate. So I didn't know if there are any, there's the legislation and you can review it more carefully, but are there any questions about what's in there or? Okay, well, we're going to have a little time for a little more discussion later. So having looked at that, I thought it'd be helpful to point people to the materials that were presented at the Gulf of Maine Task Force meeting on December 19th. And again, we have sent the website to you, and if Alan will bring up the opening page of that.
I can, and I'm also going to put it in the chat here, guys, so you can click on it if.
Yeah. So this is what you'll find. And if you scroll down through it, you will see the meeting materials, the agenda, the charter, the kind of technical documents that are there, some posters, and then you'll see a series of presentations that were made there. And if you weren't at the meeting, I do recommend you take a look at this. We certainly are going to have other presentations related to offshore or wind and economic development from other entities, but this is a good place to start. And I thought it'd be helpful for us very briefly to look at some of these. And so Alan is going to bring up the first one I thought might be a good overview for everyone. And this is the BOEM, U.S. Outer Continental Shelf and Renewable Energy. And this is not just about the Gulf of Maine. As you go down to the next slide, you'll see that there are projects being developed, Alaska, Pacific Coast, Gulf of Mexico, and then Atlantic. And in the Atlantic, I think things are in some ways the farthest along because there are projects that are in construction now and soon to be in construction. And the next slide, in each case, this requires state leadership because the construction industry, the onshoring of the power, and all kinds of decisions have to be made at the state level because, after all, the federal waters start 3 miles out. So there has to be a good synergy there. You'll see the existing projects that have gone through a BOEM process and leasing has either been done or expected. You will see on the next page. In some ways, what's most relevant to us is what's happening off the southern New England coast and in the Bight of New York. Those projects are ones that might have a lot of synergy with us and potentially in terms of supply chain and construction and so on and so forth. We might find ourselves partnering with. The governors of Maine, Massachusetts, and New Hampshire, I think, wisely saw that this project is going to be the tri-state, and it means that we will need to cooperate quite a bit. And this is really to our great advantage because there has been so much done in Massachusetts already that we can really benefit from their experience down there. Obviously, the potential here for renewable energy is just quite enormous, and you'll see that on the next slide that we, where we are and their expectations. And I guess things have been delayed a little bit by COVID, but I would think that it's quite possible within a couple of years that we'll see a leasing process about to begin in New Hampshire, or at least an area for leasing having started. So if we could move to the next one.
The next presentation.
The next presentation, yeah. Now this, I really recommend that you look kind of closely at this presentation because the sequence here will have a lot to do with the sequence of our activities. Because there is the planning and analysis period, and that will be that will be going, ongoing. Then there is that moment of the leasing when all the planning and analysis has been done, and this, very close work on seabed, on fisheries, on access sites, and so much that has to be done in terms of research and also making sure that we have, full knowledge and cooperation of fisheries and everybody else who is responsible for the environment, let alone construction issues, port facilities, and so forth. And then the leasings go out to bid, and there's a lot of evaluation of those of those bids, and how it is that site assessment that is proposed, and those bids comes in, and then incredibly careful review of construction and operation. And I think that in each of these we are going to be involved, but I think most particularly that we have getting ourselves ready for this industry, construction operations phase, and how we can get these potentially $22 billion of investment and thousands of jobs, as part of New Hampshire's economic development. Even though we do mention procurement in the legislation, I thought that unlike some of the other states that have already made announcements about procurement requirements and so forth, that New Hampshire needs some time to think about this, and it's probably at the time of the leasing announcement that we might think more about that and working with Public Utilities Commissions and others. So this slide gives a little more detail of what goes in and what kind of process is there, and the public input and planning that's required. And the next one, please, Alan. And particularly, and I guess we'll go to the next one if we could. You'll see how important, I don't know why I don't have, this has somehow not come up. Well, online you will find that there's, in the leasing document development, maybe try the next slide here, one more. Another one. Yeah, sometimes I'm getting boxes here. Anyways, you'll find a slide there that talks about how important in the leasing document development, this is where the environmental assessment and process and public involvement becomes paramount. And I think certainly for this commission that there will be, real necessity for us to make sure that the voices have been heard. And then perhaps we could go a little bit, few more slides down to how input is collected. So, certainly this lists comment periods and consultants and general public meetings and so forth. And here's where I think this commission will have to play an important role to be included in the comments and the public participation here and the input in that. And, certainly there may be legislation involved as well. So for the next one, I wanted to ask if Matt could take over and talk a little bit about how this all connects with the New Hampshire energy policy and that the governor has developed. So Matt, and Alan will get this up for you.
Excellent. Thank you, Senator, and good afternoon, everyone. Happy to be alongside. And again, I know this is just the beginning of a long process. And really just wanted to set the table today on how the work we're doing here at the state level interfaces with the work that's being done at the federal level. And of course, that federal process is a three-state effort between Maine, New Hampshire, and Massachusetts, in conjunction with the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, which is housed under the Department of the Interior down in DC. I'll touch on just a couple of slides here. I know this is a much longer presentation. If you want to see it in full, there is a full recording on BOEM's website. But I'll start on slide 6. And again, just try to go through some of the highlights here. As we heard at the kickoff meeting last December, and it feels like it was several decades ago in light of COVID, the Gulf of Maine has some of the best wind potential anywhere in the world. It is the right process to go through. We want to make sure we're engaging with stakeholders at every turn. But our resource really is unmatched. Sure that other states have moved forward, especially Mass and states along the Atlantic coast. But those wind potentials, and if you look at the color chart in that purple and blue area, simply don't compare to what we have here in the Gulf of Maine. So again, a huge resource potential there. On slide 8, the challenge, of course, of the Gulf of Maine and why it hasn't gotten so much attention and why prior offshore wind study commissions for the Gulf of Maine have come with mixed reviews, really are limited by technology. The Gulf of Maine is very deep. You see that here with this bathymetry map. And essentially, we're going to be relying on floating offshore wind technology that simply isn't as far commercialized compared to some of those fixed bottom structures. With floating also come challenges for existing offshore ocean users, especially commercial fishermen and other types of shipping activities that need to transit those lanes in between the turbines. That's going to be a chief consideration for this commission's work, which is why the senator has done a great job through this piece of legislation to make sure that we have all the right stakeholders, from the fishermen to the workforce to the state, to make sure that these voices are heard early and often throughout the process. On slide 9, this here is an energy consideration, right? So there's a lot of other stakeholder concerns, but when it comes to the actual electric grid and where these resources might tie in, Northern New England is currently export constrained. Essentially that there is more electric generation that exists in the Northern New England region than can be exported down to load centers like Boston and Hartford, which is going to have some implications for how valuable adding new resources in the Gulf of Maine potentially could be to the resilience and the reliability of the grid. You notice that Maine is in a bucket called a nested export constrained region, which means Maine's challenges are even more exacerbated than those across New Hampshire and Vermont. That might make New Hampshire a prime interconnection opportunity, especially if you look at legacy interconnection assets that already exist on the seacoast, or the potential for new transmission lines to help bring this power onshore and into our communities. So again, the point here that we're in a unique position here in Northern New England, but still great potential if we can maximize the opportunity. I'll jump ahead to slide 12 next. And slide 12 talks a bit more about where this electric market, especially at the wholesale level, exists. Right now, our electric grid is predominantly natural gas driven. And when natural gas capacity is used primarily in the winter for home heating needs, we see these price spikes that are driven during winter cold snaps. ISO New England, along with some other industry groups, are looking at the potential cost savings that having offshore wind up and running during these cold snaps, what type of value that might deliver to the wholesale market and help reduce some of the concerns, especially driven by winter cold snaps. So that's a potential economic analysis that will be important to see the results of once those become available. On slide 14, this is a little bit of background specific to New Hampshire's process. So January 2nd, 2019, the governor kicked off this BOEM Gulf of Maine task force process. He was later joined by the states of Massachusetts and Maine to make this a tri-state effort. Our relationship with BOEM has existed since April of 2019. And ultimately, we issued an executive order in December, just before the first task force meeting. And in that executive order on slide 15, you'll see essentially there were two main features. One of them was to set up 4 advisory boards that are styled very similar to the roles and responsibilities of this offshore wind commission. The statute specifically contemplates how these advisory boards will provide additional opportunity for stakeholder discussion. Prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, we would have anticipated these boards having already began their work this spring. But in light of the COVID-19 pandemic and also requests from stakeholders to not do any type of offshore wind planning work during the pandemic, our office had withheld making any formal announcements related to those advisory boards, and they have not began their work as of yet. We don't have a timeline on exactly when those will take shape, but I think realizing that COVID-19 is not going away, especially as we get here into the fall, we are evaluating what the best way to proceed with those 4 advisory boards might be. The other side of the executive order were 2 studies, one focusing on the potential environmental benefits of reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and the other a offshore wind supply chain manufacturer economic analysis to see what type of economic opportunities and workforce challenges might arise as we bring more and more offshore wind here into New England and across the eastern seaboard. The next slide I just want to touch on is slide 18, which talks about the state energy strategy that Senator Waters mentioned to kick this conversation off. You see some of the key takeaways from the last iteration. There will be a revision that comes out in 2021 per the statute. And of course, offshore wind will be a significant portion of that as well. Some of the themes that I wouldn't expect to change are the prioritization of cost-effective energy policies, securing a reliable and resilient energy system. We want to achieve environmental protection that is cost-effective and enables economic growth. I think offshore wind, it's safe to say, has great potential to check all 3 of those boxes in a very profound way. Encourage market selection of cost-effective energy resources. Again, we want competitive markets to help protect ratepayers from higher costs, and finding ways to generate in-state economic activity without reliance on permanent subsidies. We understand offshore wind's a new industry. We've seen a variety of models from other states on exactly what the best path forward for this new industry is. But I think it would be premature to comment specifically on how New Hampshire might seek to solve those challenges at this moment in time. And also, we're going to look out for New Hampshire's interests to the extent that our regional neighbors might take a different policy track. Want to make sure that those costs are not burdened by New Hampshire ratepayers. And the last slide I'll touch on is slide 19, and then turn this back over to the chairman. Just that we want to focus on an all of the above approach in a technology neutral manner. So to the extent that we're looking for clean, renewable energy, we don't want to put all of our eggs in one basket, whether it be with offshore wind or solar or any other type of carbon-free electric source. We want these resources to compete on their costs, on their merits, and of course, in any potential environmental benefits that they might deliver to the state of New Hampshire and New England as a whole. And I'll stop there.
Matt, a question?
Thank you, Matt.
Question, Mr. Chairman?
Why don't you go right ahead, Representative Cushing.
Yeah, it's just a Matt. Matt, has there been any interaction with BOEM since the pandemic began?
So we have not engaged with BOEM beyond the first task force meeting and subsequent follow-up conversations earlier this spring. I think the last time that we had a regional call between Maine, New Hampshire, Massachusetts was probably in April, in the very early days of COVID. And I think originally there was hope that either this summer or this fall, we would have seen a second task force meeting, especially from the state's perspectives. Clearly that did not materialize with the pandemic. And as we come into the fall, I think there's a renewed interest from all 3 states to work with BOEM and try to map out what a future path might look like. But unfortunately, I don't have any additional information at this moment in time beyond that.
Thanks.
If I might add there, Representative Cushing and Matt, it does seem at BOEM there is a little bit of a capacity issue in terms of its staffing, because with the questions that were raised about Vineyard Haven, a lot of the staff was shifted to that project to do what needed to be done there. And it's hoped that there'll be some resolution about that. I think they have a deadline of January, perhaps. So I think there'll be a shift once that situation is resolved, that there will be a shift at BOEM back to getting this going. And in a sense, it's been useful for us, not just because of COVID, but also we have a lot of catch up to do. And getting this commission passed and then getting going will really help us be in a better shape to do what needs to be done when Gulf of Maine Task Force starts again. I thought we'd end up the review of presentations by looking briefly at the overview of offshore wind research. And perhaps we could go down another page on this. So I wanted to direct your attention to this for two reasons. One is because I think that the research opportunities here and development of technologies is really going to be important to us. We have extraordinary capacity at the University of New Hampshire, not just its mapping, ocean mapping program, but in so many other ways that the research capacity up here can participate. And the other aspect of this is that this document really gives us some sense of what needs to be done. And then particularly under the action items on several pages, the opportunities for us as a commission and also as a state to take some of these on. This report is a few years old, but there has been a kind of a very comprehensive study, which I'll get to commission members, that was done in Massachusetts as they made the decision to double their procurement up to 3.2 gigawatts for their offshore wind. And it looked at a lot of things about capacity of industry, of manufacturing sites, of workforce, of onshoring and so on. And it will help us to understand what kind of is involved in taking some of these on. And it's also important in this list too to see just how the stewardship and research efforts are going to make sure that environmental and human use concerns, fisheries concerns are identified, and also, as Matt mentioned, in terms of the New Hampshire energy strategy, to make sure that the costs and benefits area for our state are recognized. And then just to point to what Matt mentioned about the floating platforms, you'll see a little information here about floating platforms, a project underway for several years now at the University of Maine to develop these, and they have a test. They've done a test one. I know that there are some European manufacturers who are pretty far along in developing floating platforms as well. So I think that the sense is that by the time we really get around to leasing and construction, that there'll be some very good options on floating platforms. But of course, that raises all kinds of issues about cabling and about fisheries and about subsurface and onshoring of energy. So these are just some things to point to in what we already have from the Gulf of Maine Task Force. So with that, let's pause here, and Alan, you can take the slides down. And I'd love to have people's kind of thoughts or comments, and particularly about, how you think we should proceed. What do you want to make sure is on our agenda for subsequent meetings, and who needs to be heard from. So please do raise your hand, and Alan will recognize you. Alan, do you see Michael?
Yeah. Great. Yeah. Thanks. I just wanted to follow up, Matt, on whether or not it might be appropriate for us to reach out to the contacts in Maine, in Massachusetts, just to see what they've had going on in the same interim, or to catch up and maybe provide some, some updates to us, whether or not it's, the commission, or if you want to simply call, since you've got the contacts. That I think that would be very helpful at the moment.
I would agree. I think that might be a great topic for one of our early meetings here. Maine, of course, has some interesting stuff with Aquaventus, which Chairman Waters just referred to. And of course, Massachusetts has been through this process, start to finish, or maybe not quite finish, but start to wherever they are. And it would be great to learn from their experience as well. And certainly would want to extend that invite to them.
We have Representative Sampsits and then Representative Cushing after.
Yes, thank you. Since this is the first commission I've served on, I wonder if either Senator Waters or others can explain to me a little bit about what the normal process is. Is this as far as maybe assigning tasks or having regular updates of various efforts, and who does what, and will we get around to some kind of organization like that? Since I haven't done this before, I'm just a novice at this.
Well, thank you, Representative, for the question. And it really will be the kind of joint wisdom of the commission, how best to proceed. I envision monthly meetings. I envision presentations on various topics as we determine which topics in our rather lengthy list of tasks that the legislation outlines. I think often commissions work best that are rather methodical, that go through the set of priorities of the tasks that are before us, and have the right people come in and provide information. And we do have the capacity to break into subgroups who might, in those 4 areas that Matt mentioned, and an earlier version of this legislation did have actually specific, those 4 areas specifically in it. And so, there might be some ways to go do that, a group would work, and then bring things to the commission. We do have reports to offer at a set schedule in the legislation, but we will decide as a commission what recommendations we want to make to whom based on the information that we've received. So I hope that's not too vague, Representative, but that is the kind of likely way to proceed. Maybe others want to comment on that. And I know Rennie or Representative Cushing had his hand up.
Go for it, Representative Cushing.
Okay, yeah, I mean, one of the things that I would like to get is just kind of an update on where the state is of the strikes.
Froze up there, Representative Cushing. Can you,
moved, developed so much, and just
I think we lost him there. All right.
Representative Cushing, why don't you try turning your video off and see if you have better bandwidth for your audio?
I think he probably is totally off right now. We'll try to get him back on when he reconnects. So anybody else?
Van Den.
Yes, thank you. On the comment of trying to learn lessons from other jurisdictions that have done this, happy to, if we want to have a conversation with someone from the DOER, I can help coordinate that, having been a part of some of those conversations, whether it's just how to think about the structure of this process and transmission. And then at the right time, we can bring in someone from ISO. I can facilitate that as well, to think about some of the items that Matt mentioned about New Hampshire having some constraints, and then northern Maine having, Maine to New Hampshire interface being constrained. Those are all solvable problems. I think it's exciting to find multiple reasons to solve them, and and kind of co-optimize it. So at the right time, we can add those to the list of items for us to kind of ground us on.
Anybody else? All right, Ted.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to, can you hear me okay, Senator? Yeah. Just wanted to note that we do have potentially some resources to bring to bear through our partnerships in the region. We do have, what's nice about the stage we're at in this is that we line up fairly nicely with some of the ocean planning work that's been going on and some of the work that's out there. So for example, if you all are interested in, looking at maps and looking at, areas of the ocean and what's going on out there, we can provide some of that through our Ocean Policy Committee at the Northeast Regional Ocean Council. So there's some of that's available. And additionally, we have some expertise available to us through contract work through them, through some of the some former government folks, as well as a couple of different government folks who used to be in either the federal or state governments who've worked on these issues for very many years. So we also can help to provide some of that should we get to that point, and it seems like it's something that you all would like to do.
I see Diane Foster.
Yeah, thank you. I agree with the assessment of the technology development for technologies greater than 100-meter water depth, the floating technologies. It's my impression that at least some of the potentially suitable locations could be in water depths between 50 and 100 meters. And I'd just like to note that the technology for that is a bit farther behind that of the pure floating technologies. Next, we've just recently received some funding from the Economic Development Authority for energy water microgrid systems. And as part of that, that will be sort of boosting the renewable energy opportunities at Shoals Marine Lab. That right behind me where the bird sits is Shoals Appledore Island. And we will be rebuilding our wind turbine there. So there'll be additional information. Finally, in the chat, I'm putting at least a collection of some of the research opportunities and research technologies and advancement that we've done at the University of New Hampshire. And if you go to the bottom of that page, there is a link to offshore wind relevant expertise and resource list.
Thank you. We got Representative Cushing back. Can you hear us, Representative?
I can. I'm sorry, whatever I did, Alan, to offend you.
Well,
my question was not out of line.
We didn't want to miss the important question statement. So can you restart from where you began there?
Well, I just want to know, I was just curious about wanting to kind of have an update of where the state of the industry is, where the state of the regulatory bodies are, where the state of the technology is right now. I think a year ago I had a pretty good handle. One thing I do know is that it changes really quickly, and I didn't know if Matt knew that, or just someone from the industry could speak to that, just to educate ourselves so we know where we are.
Yeah, if I just may add, I think that that's a very good point. And in Germany and some other European countries, there's a big move into hydrogen production as part of energy storage and also heavy industry use. And I've talked with some of the East Coast developers about this, and they're starting to think about it as well. So there are going to be new things. Yep. Aside from just the turbines floating around, there are going to be other kinds of things that might be coming along by the time we're doing Gulf of Maine. And did we have, was Michael next to Alan, or was somebody else? I guess Michael then.
Yeah, that's fine.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to propose the idea of looking at the elements noted in the legislation in the different topic areas and see if we want to go kind of meeting by meeting, addressing those and having and welcoming specific speakers that have expertise in other markets, or certainly in some cases right here in New Hampshire. And then, try and learn a bit from those speakers, and whether or not we do one speaker, 15 minutes, or half an hour, two speakers, 15 minutes each. But I think that might be helpful to kind of coordinate addressing one item at a time, and then seeing whether or not we need to create a separate committee to look further into those specific items.
Well, if I may, throw out to the commission on that, that what might be helpful to hear, and if not necessarily today, but in the next few days, is that it seems to me that we could do kind of what Michael was saying and have a meeting that would be snapshots of each of these. So that everybody could get a little more information. Some people are real familiar with offshore wind, some not so much. And we could do that and then decide in what order we're going to take closer, more intensive looks. I mean, I do think there are some things here that are a little farther out in the timeline, and then some things that are nearer, like the port, the siting and leasing issues, the workforce development. But I mean, that's for people to decide. So I guess that'll be the question, and whether our next meeting should be that kind of buffet of looks, a little more information about each of the things that we're supposed to be doing, and then kind of set us up for deciding the sequence of closer looks and whether we do break into some working groups.
Representative Sampsits has his hand raised.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to add a little bit to what Senator Waters just mentioned. My understanding is that in places like Australia and Japan, those two countries are very heavily looking into hydrogen, possibly as a fuel for transportation resources, and that the British government has recently implemented, or actually installed, I think, a project in the North Sea with a floating turbine that's kind of a hybrid platform. It generates both electricity and hydrogen from the water. And with a pipeline, it's planned that this pipeline will bring hydrogen onto the coastline. And I bring that up just because we always think of the turbines right now in the idea of the electricity involved. But when you start looking at hydrogen as a possible transportation fuel, now you've got all kinds of other options besides electricity. So I think we need to just keep that in mind, because that could be something in the future that's going to be really important. There's already in California a regular vehicle from Toyota you can buy that drives on hydrogen fuel cells. So just with gaseous hydrogen with a 275-mile range, and that's already available everywhere in California. And it's zero emission. Okay, so.
Are there other comments on or advice or? Yeah, Tony.
Thank you, Senator Waters. You know what my mindset is that as we go through this whole process, a steep learning curve to all of this, I think, for all of us, and I'm eager to learn. But during that process, am I wrong to be thinking that this is still a very competitive industry? And with our coastal New England states, we are in somewhat of a competition of who's going to get the jobs and who's going to get the manufacturing sites and things of that nature. And I would think that for our legislators who are here with us, should we be thinking about legislation that encourages these industries to come to New Hampshire and not Mass and not Rhode Island and not Connecticut, but come to New Hampshire?
Yeah.
The key word is encourage. I don't know, we aren't going to be doing what some other states may do in massive financial incentives, but we can win on all kinds of things. We can win on facilities, on siting. They're getting maxed out of their room that they have down there in southern Connecticut and Rhode Island and Massachusetts. So we have a lot of potential and possibilities up here. But I mean, of course, $22 billion and thousands of jobs, bring it on. But, we're going to be cooperating with the states, right? I mean, this is a tri-state effort, and I think that we have a very good story to sell here, but New Hampshire works best when all hands are on deck, and that's part of what this commission will do and what the governor's task force will do. So I think that, the siting and the workforce development are ones that maybe will be requiring us to look in a little sooner rather than procurement and some of those other things. So Good point.
You know, I think we can do, I think we need to be enthusiastic and open and, you know, laying down a market. We want to do this. We're going to stake our part of our future that this is what the New Hampshire is going to be doing and make a commitment to that without giving out. We're not going to give out subsidies, but we'll partner. We're really good partners.
Yes, Diane, please.
In the winter, we had Grover Fugate, who is from Rhode Island and was part of the Rhode Island Coastal Program came. And from what I could tell, that group provided a really great resource for collecting information that was needed. And one of the take homes, we had a follow-up meeting with him, is that we asked about the investment from the state. He did say there was a substantial investment from the state up front in order to collect all of the data that's needed for proper environmental assessment and impact. And that's one thing I think we do want to be mindful of as we move forward. It's not without zero investment.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Any other comments? Well, thank you all. And I think this gives us a lot to think about how to proceed. And as I mentioned earlier, I think perhaps Michael and Matt and Mark and others who may be interested will kind of have a little kind of steering committee to try to take people's advice and thoughts. So please email me if you have additional thoughts after the meeting. And in terms of scheduling, I thought that we're pretty boxed in the legislature Mondays and Fridays, and there are a lot of other commissions meeting at various times. And we now with COVID have a staffing constraint as to, because these need to be legal public meetings, how many of these meetings can be held in a given day. And I also thought that this time at 3 o'clock might help those folks who were doing other things earlier. So I'd like to propose that we look at the third Monday at 3 o'clock, which would mean our next two would be on the 19th of October and the 16th of November. Whether we meet or not in December, I kind of think maybe not, because of the restructuring of the legislature and holidays and all those kinds of things. But I think I'll put that out there, and if there are some real problems, I mean, the Zoom makes it a little easier for us to do this, but please let me know if there are any problems with that. But otherwise, I'd like to schedule the meetings for that time.
The 19th at 3 o'clock is open on the Zoom Center.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't ask the boss before I put these wrote these times down. Okay, Alan.
Good.
And then potentially the 16th of November.
That's the 16th.
At the same time. Yeah.
Yep, that's all set too.
Lock them down.
All right. All right. So Alan, at this time, unless there are further comments from the commission, could we open the meeting for public comment?
No problem. Oh wait, hold on 1 second. Do you have a hand raised? Oh, no, it went down. At this point, if you are an attendee, you would press the raise hand button if you had something that you wanted to contribute to the commission, and I will let you speak. And if you are calling in on the phone, you press *9, I believe, to raise your hand, and then I will do the same thing. I have a Jeffrey D. I'm going to bring him in. Can you hear us, Jeffrey?
Yes, I can. I'm calling from Andover, New Hampshire. I'm just curious if any members of the commission have a sense of what companies, regional companies, New Hampshire companies, engineering and project management that have experience in this sector and might be in line to look at some of the types of work that will be coming down the line.
Thank you for that comment. And I think I'll kind of book that mostly as a comment that tells us that we need to be thinking about that. I mean, this is one of the reasons the BIA has representation here, and Commissioner Caswell's area is so importantly represented, because, you know, this is about jobs, it's about New Hampshire companies, and I think there's a potential for a great deal of work available, and we want to make sure that the companies who might be able to do some of the work know, you know, understand and early on that there are possibilities here. So thank you for that comment.
Senator, if I could just add real quick, something other states have done, which I would personally recommend New Hampshire consider and likely move towards, are business registries of existing businesses within the state that either currently work in the industry or have opportunity to find partnerships, joint ventures within this industry that we simply haven't had an opportunity to do yet, but I think we should certainly consider.
And Mark, I don't know if you have any comments about that, but it certainly sounds like a BEA task.
That would certainly be something I'd have to discuss with the commissioner. As he is want to know is now that he's taken over Gopher as well, we're pretty stretched thin, but at the same time, obviously we're involved in this, and we will certainly discuss this more.
Senator Waters, I'd like to make the offer as well. The BIA, I had mentioned to you that I vice chair the Manufacturing and Users Policy Committee. We meet once a month and always welcome speakers. So as we start to get some traction with issues and we start talking about jobs and workforce development, we would love to have someone from this committee come before the manufacturing group and talk to them. As you know, the largest industry leaders sit around that table, and I'm sure we would pack the room.
Yep. Thank you.
Great.
Most welcome.
Alan, is there other public comment?
Yes, we have a Ken Wells, bringing him in right now. Ken, can you hear us?
Yes, thank you. This is Representative Ken Wells from Andover, New Hampshire. Representative Sampsits mentioned hydrogen gas, and I just wanted to mention that since New Hampshire seems to be export constrained, having another way of transporting energy out in the form of hydrogen and being able to use that along with the natural gas pipelines with a 75% natural gas, 25% gas co-mix, in addition to vehicular fuel, might be a good thing for us to plan for and make sure that we have the infrastructure to support that. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that. I do think it's going to be a big topic. I will note that in Germany and in Denmark, they are looking at electrolysis platforms that load directly onto container ships, and this avoids the problems of onshoring through pipeline. So anyways, there's a lot of different things that might be done about this. It really is, I mean, most particularly is being looked at as an energy storage capacity. But, you know, I think there's going to be a new future with the hydrogen, if it seems feasible along our coasts. I mean, I will note these other countries that are doing hydrogen, they have very, very, very strong mandates supporting that transition to non-fossil fuels and also to transportation. And, you know, I don't know if the United States or the various states here are going to be in a position to do quite what the federal governments have done over there, but it's certainly getting to be on the radar of the development companies for offshore wind in the United States.
All right, and if anybody else would like to comment or has a question, again, just have to raise your hand, or if you're on the phone, press *9. As of right now, there's nobody else. Senator.
Well, thank you all. You know, I wanted to keep this relatively brief, and we did a pretty good job of that. And I think this gives us a really great some ways to move forward. And as I said, I just can't thank you all enough. I think we're going to have a commission that's going to be able to make some very strong contributions and do some good work. And we do need to have a motion and a roll call vote to adjourn. So I will make that motion to adjourn if there's a second.
I'll second Matt Milo.
And if you could call the roll, please, Alan.
No problem. Senator David Waters,
Yes.
Senator Jeb Bradley,
Yes.
Representative Jane Bolio,
Yes.
thank you, Representative Catherine Harvey, I can see you're smiling.
Mute myself. Yes.
Great, thank you. Representative Peter Sampsits,
Yes.
Representative Rennie Cushing,
Yes.
Matthew Mayu,
Yes.
Mark LaLiberty,
Yes.
Ted Deers,
Yes.
Diane Martin,
Yes.
Sheree Patterson,
Yes.
Donald Crease,
Yes.
Michael Behrman,
Yes.
Diane Foster,
Yes.
Sean Clancy,
Yes.
Jim Titone,
Yes.
Tony Junta,
Yes.
Glenn Brackett,
Yes.
Vandan Devasha,
Yes.
Tim Roach, Tim, are you going to let us adjourn?
Yep, sorry.
Thank you. Jennifer says,
Yes.
there you go.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
David.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you.